Hi friends, it's Michelle again. Today, we are not just reading a story about a career opportunity or a relationship disagreement. This one is about slow erosion, the kind of erosion that happens so quietly, so gradually that you don't realize that you've lost yourself until you look back and you can't recognize who you were. This is about what happens when control doesn't show up as yelling or threats at first, but it shows up as concern, as love, as just wanting to feel secure, and how that can turn into something much deeper and darker. So let's get into it. The post title is, "Am I the asshole for not wanting to accept a promotion even though my boyfriend says it's not the kind of life that he wants?" Let's take a look and see. I, 25-year-old female, just got offered a pretty huge promotion at work, from being a coordinator for one business unit to becoming a global coordinator. It's a big jump, both in responsibilities and salary. I've been promoted every year since I started here. It's been 3 years. This role is honestly something I never thought I'd reach this soon. It would be a big deal financially and career-wise. Okay, I want to pause already because I want us to feel what that moment means to her. This is not just a job. This is an identity shift. This is purpose. This is that moment where your younger self looks at you and goes, "We made it. We actually did the thing we dreamed about." Those moments, they're scarce. They shape how you view yourself for the rest of your life. So let's continue. The only catch is that it involves some travel. The company is actually trying to reduce travel costs so it wouldn't be constant. We have 4 business units in different parts of the world: Europe, Asia, South America. And I'd probably go to each once a year for about a week each. So in total, like 4 weeks a year. Okay, 4 weeks a year, that's nothing. That's less travel than most entry-level corporate jobs demand. And she was transparent about it, clear, direct. So let's see what happens. My boyfriend, 32-year-old male, is not okay with that. He didn't give me a direct ultimatum, but when I brought it up to him again, after he already told me how he feels, he basically said that if I keep pushing for something he's clearly not comfortable with, then I must know what I truly want and that I should just pack my bags and leave. It really hurt to hear that. I get where he's coming from, though. He wants a stable life, someone more family focused. He's been upfront about that since the beginning. But so have I about not wanting kids until 30. That sentence right there, or really paragraph, that's where my heart just dropped a little because there was no communication. He didn't say anything like, "I'm scared. Let's talk about how to make this work." And he didn't say, "I want to try to understand your dreams or where you're coming from." Instead, what he did say was that if you choose yourself and you choose to follow your dreams, then you are choosing to leave me. And that right there, that's not love. That's possession. That tries to look like vulnerability. But you can hear in that paragraph that she does what so many people do, especially women who are raised to care, who are raised to soothe, who are raised to keep the peace. What she does is she internalizes it. She says, "I get where he's coming from. He wants a stable life, someone that's family focused." And here's where I need to say something very, very clearly. You can value family and also have ambition. Both of those things can coexist. You can be caring and still want a career. You don't have to choose between love and yourself, because that is a false choice. And it is unfortunately one that women have been conditioned to accept for generation after generation after generation. So let's go on and see what the poster had to say. She goes on to say, "The thing is, I've started to care more about those values too since being with him. But at the same time, I've always dreamed about having a successful career. I've worked my A off for this. And honestly, if the teenage me could see where I could head towards now, doing work that I love, getting recognition, making good money, even getting to travel, she would be amazed by the opportunity. I don't want to choose between love and ambition. I really care about him, and I don't want to lose what we have. But I also don't want to say no to something I've wanted for so long and then spend years wondering, what if?" And you can already hear there the heartbreak that's forming, the quiet little whisper of, but what if I do have to choose? And you can see there too that she tries to talk to him again. She tries to find a middle ground. She tries to reassure him. She tries to compromise. In this moment, this is where the story turns, because it stops being about travel. And she goes on to write later in an edit, let's see. First of all, thank you so much to everyone who took a few minutes of their lives to share their thoughts with me. I know I ask strangers on the internet for advice, but I often feel overwhelmed and stuck in my own head. And your objective perspective really helped bring some clarity. I am sorry I couldn't reply and keep up with all the messages. I honestly did not expect so many responses. OMG. I tried to talk to him and find some middle ground. I explained that this is only 4 weeks per year abroad, and that I already spoke to my manager to make sure the traveling will not exceed 10% of my working time. But now it seems like that's not enough either. He started bringing up other issues, not just traveling. And right there, here it comes. Let's go on to see what he says. He does not like that I might need to adjust my working hours to match other time zones. While this is partly true, I would still only work 8 hours a day, just maybe on a different schedule once a week. He's also worried about the people that I might meet, especially men. Boom. There it is. That's right. This is not about life values anymore. That's about jealousy being justified as boundaries. Let's continue to see what else she says. He does not like the idea of me going on dinners with clients or sleeping in hotel rooms alone because he might not be able to join me on the next work trip. Also, he told me he won't accept me going to dinners while he waits for me in the hotel room. Are you freaking hearing this? The pattern here? If she is not within his line of sight, then he perceives it as she is a threat to him. And this is not about travel. This is about his fear that is being disguised as a moral compass. And then she goes on to say something that made me sit completely still for a moment. What she went on to say is that he does not like me talking to coworkers during breaks, which is why he insists that I call him on every break that I get. He gets annoyed if I do not reply to his text right away or if he takes me 30 minutes to answer. He wants me to send him my calendar daily so he knows exactly when I have meetings. And if I do not let him know about every single work-related conversation with men, whether it is with coworkers, suppliers, or trainers, he gets really upset and says that I'm hiding things. This right here is the moment in the story where the lights, they need to come on, because this is where we realize that it's no longer about a disagreement. This is about him surveilling her or keeping a tab on her at all times. This is monitoring. This is control. This is isolation that is disguised as devotion. And you can see that she says this gently and she says it softly, almost like she's apologizing for it. And the reason she does this is because she has been taught by him to think that this is normal. So I want to be very clear here. This is not normal. This is not love. This is a whole lot more than just some insecurity. What this is right here, this is control. Let's take a pause for a second and let's just breathe, because I'm getting worked up here. And we are just at the surface. We are still going to be going deeper, because we still got to dive into the trauma bonding, the attachment patterns, the nervous system collapse, why her body started breaking down before her mind understood that she was not safe. Because this Reddit story has all of these things written all over it. And we're going to talk about what love feels like when it's actually control, and why it's hard to see it when you're in it. So let's breathe. Let's shake it off a little bit here. Shake it off, shake it off. And let's talk about this. Because when we look at the story now, this isn't about whether she travels for work. And after reading this, it is clear that it was never about that. The travel was just the trigger that revealed what was already there. What this really is about, it's a story about coercive control. And coercive control does not start with violence. It does not start with screaming. It does not start with obvious threats, which is why it's so hard to detect and to recognize. Coercive control usually starts with things like, I just love you. I just want to feel secure. I just want to know that you're safe. I just want to know that you're mine. The tone with coercive control is usually soft, and the language with coercive control, it usually sounds loving. And the erosion with coercive control, it's slow. And because it sounds loving and because it sounds soft, your identity, what happens is that it can start to disappear. But let's go back to her words for a moment, because the way she tells the story, it reveals everything. So let's jump back in there, because she says he is starting to bring up other issues. No, he's not starting. He's way too comfortable to bring them up for that to be the case. These so-called issues started a long time ago. But what's happening now is now she's finally able to see it. Then she continues by saying, he's worried about the men that I might meet. That right there, that's not worry. That's not, oh, I'm worried about your safety. What that is he perceives ownership of her. And this continues to be clear by her saying things like this. He does not like me going to dinners with clients. These statements are not about comfort. They're about tutorial surveillance. I mean, just listen. She goes on to say, he does not like me talking to coworkers during breaks, so he insists that I call him instead. That's not closeness. That's isolation. He is trying to isolate her. And then in this phrase, that tells me exactly where we are in the trauma cycle. She says, he gets upset if I don't respond within 30 minutes. That's not communication. That's panic that's disguised as entitlement. Like, he is entitled to know where she is at all freaking times, which tells me that his nervous system reads her independence as danger to him. And this is a moment where partners who are controlling reveal the truth of the relationship. And the truth that you existing as your own individual person outside of him is a threat to him, or at least that's how it feels to him. He wants access to her attention, to her time, to her communication, to her choices, to her visibility. Because if he can monitor her, then he can contain his own fear. He is trying to control her to ease his feelings of fear and insecurity. Because control, guess what? It is always about fear. But here's the critical piece, the hard freaking truth. Fear, it does not excuse the harm that his control is causing her. We can understand where it's coming from. We can even understand the wound. We can even empathize with the origin of the story. But we cannot normalize the behavior, because the behavior is doing exactly what abuse always does. It's shrinking her in her world to the size of his comfort. She also says in her edit, and I'm just going to summarize it here because it's pretty long, but he says, he made me block all my male friends. I stopped going to the gym unless it was with him. He checks my clothes. He comments on my weight. He reads my emails. He checks my phone. He monitors my time. He made me cut off a coworker who was a friend. This right here, this is textbook definition of systematic isolation. Piece by piece, choice by choice, relationship by relationship. First, her friends, then her schedule, then her hobbies, then her clothes, then her voice, then her identity. Systematic isolation. It usually doesn't happen at a dramatic way. It's usually not quick. It's more slow building. It's quiet, and it's usually not loud in your face. It's more quiet than that. And then she said something that broke my heart. She said, I thought this is what relationships are supposed to be. And unfortunately, this is what control does. It doesn't just take your life. It takes your definition of love with it. Now let's talk about the body, because she even brings that in. So let's see what she says in her edit, okay? I've been sick for months. Acne, hair loss, cysts, ear infections, digestive issues, migraines, constant, for the first time in my life. That right there, I want you to understand that that's not coincidence. That's her body speaking to her body speaking what her mind can't bear to see the truth being. Because when your nervous system is in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn all of the time, the body, it begins to deteriorate. Your immune system, it drops. Your hormones, they destabilize. Your digestion, it shuts down. Your skin, it reacts. Your hair, it falls out. Your sleep, it breaks. Your appetite disappears or swings. Your body will start telling the story long before your voice will. And her body has been screaming, this is not love. This is not safety. That you are disappearing inside of this. And let's talk about the attachment piece, because she named something incredibly important. She said in her edit that I have an avoidant attachment style. And his intensity, it felt like care. And this is where trauma bonds happen. Because avoidant attachment, it can say things like, I don't know how to receive love that doesn't feel safe. So I attach to love that feels overwhelming. Because that right there, that feels familiar to me. And controlling partners, they know exactly how to step into that space. And they do this with intensity, with consistency, with affection, with attention, until you feel like, I need him. He completes me. He must love me so deeply to care this much about me. But here's the truth. Intensity, it does not equal intimacy. Intensity does not equal love. Intensity is emotional adrenaline, and the body becomes addicted to it, which is why leaving feels impossible at first. And this is the reason that she not only left once, but she left twice and went back twice, because the trauma bond is not about logic. It's about withdrawal. When she leaves, her nervous system, it doesn't feel like relief. It feels like emptiness. It feels like panic. It feels like something is missing. So what does she do? She comes back. Not because she is weak, because she's not. Not because she doesn't see red flags, because she does. Not because she wants this, because she doesn't. But it's because the human brain would rather go back to familiar pain than step into unfamiliar freedom. And this is why her sentence matters in her edit so much when she says, tomorrow I have a session with my therapist. We are going to work on a safe exit plan. This is not a breakup. This is an escape. This is a return to self. This is a woman realizing that I am not the problem. I am the one who's been surviving. And before we move on, I want to directly say this to her and to anyone who hears themselves in her story. You did not let yourself be controlled. You were conditioned to believe that control was love. And now you're waking up. And wake ups are so important. They are the pivotal moments that matter so much. All right, let's take another deep breath and shake it off a little, because as you can see, I get really fired up in these stories. I really do. So let's breathe, because this isn't the end of the story. It's really just the beginning of her coming back to herself. And I want to talk about what it really means to leave a relationship like this, because people who've never lived inside of control always says the same things. They say things like, why didn't you just leave sooner? How did you not see it? Why did you put up with that? But those people, they don't understand what happens to your sense of self inside of a relationship like this. Because control doesn't show up as a cage that someone is going to just throw you into it. It shows up as protection. It shows up as things like, I just care about you. I just want you to feel safe. I just want to feel connected to you. I just need reassurance. I just love you so much. And when your nervous system is starved or it craves for consistency, well, then that intensity can feel like love. But love, real love, doesn't need to collapse your world in order to feel secure inside of it. Real love, it says things like, I want you to grow. I want you to shine. I want you to travel and succeed and to live your life to the fullest. I want you to feel bigger, not smaller because of me. And maybe it doesn't say it in those exact words, but the meaning is the same. Whereas control sounds more like your world can't be bigger than me. And that right there, do you see the difference there? Because love, it expands you. It expands your life. But control, it contracts you and it keeps you boxed in. Love, it knows that you belong to yourself. But control, it believes that you belong to me. As you can see, her body knew before her mind did. Her body knew that this wasn't right for her, that this isn't healthy. And her body spoke to her. Her skin spoke to her through acne. Her stomach spoke to her through the digestive issues she was having. Her migraines, they spoke to her. Her hair spoke to her through the hair loss. Her immune system spoke to her through the cysts, through the ear infections. Her entire body was speaking to her, telling her that this isn't right, that this isn't healthy. And you know what? The body, it always tells the truth when the mind has been taught to doubt itself. And now what she's doing is she's waking up to that truth. Not because someone convinced her, but because her spirit couldn't stay folded any longer. And I want to say something directly to the younger version of her. The version who blocked friends, the version who changed clothes, the version who sent her daily schedule to him, the version that walked on eggshell, the version that explained and explained and explained until she didn't know how to hear her own voice anymore. I want that version of her to know nothing about that was her fault, that you are not crazy, that you were not dramatic, that you were not overreaching, that you were surviving a really, really tough situation. In survival, that is not shameful. Survival is proof that something in you refused to die inside of that relationship, even when you couldn't say it out loud. And now that part of you, the part that still knows who you are, it's rising back up. And for the first time in a long time, you are choosing it. And leaving, that's not the hard part. Staying gone, that right there, that's the real work. The grief, it will hit. The loneliness will hit. The withdrawal from intensity, it will hit. Your brain will try to rewrite history to soothe the separation that you are feeling. And that right there, I want you to know that's normal. Your nervous system is going to scream through these intense sensations in your body. It's going to scream, go back to him, go back to him, go back to the familiar. And it's going to be your duty. It's going to be your job to soothe it instead of going back and to tell it that I am choosing myself now. And you're not going to do this in anger. And you're not going to do this with revenge. And you're not going to do this with hatred. You're going to do this with truth, with your truth. Because the moment that you stop trying to convince someone that controlling you is wrong, because it is wrong, but they are unconvincible, that's the moment when you come back home to yourself. It's the moment that you love yourself enough to say no is no. I'm done. And you don't have to hate him to leave him. You just have to love yourself enough to go. And here's the final thing that I want to say to her, to you, to anyone who's listening to this and sees themselves in this same type of situation. You are allowed to have a life that is bigger than someone else's fear. You are allowed to have ambition. You are allowed to have friends. You are allowed to travel. You are allowed to be trusted. You are allowed to feel safe in your own body. You are allowed to be seen. You are allowed to take up space. You are allowed to be more than someone else's idea of enough. You don't have to choose between love and yourself, because the right person won't ask you to choose. So if you're in this situation like this, where your world keeps getting smaller, where you have to keep shrinking yourself, your life, your goals to the point where you feel like you are just disappearing, where your own life is just slipping further and further away from your hands, this right here, this is your sign to come back to yourself. Not all at once, not perfectly. You don't even have to do this bravely every single day. You just have to do it with one truth at a time, one actionable step at a time. And remember, your younger self did not survive everything that she did just for you to end up being small. You are allowed to be big. You are allowed to be bright. You are allowed to have a life that you are so freaking proud of. You are allowed to leave anything that dims that light. And I really want you to hear that. So thank you for being here with me today on this one. I'll see you on the next story.